Hi Gemini, welcome to your end of September 2020 General Tarot Update. It's Raina here. This is kind of a weird light. I don't turn on the lights during the day, so I'm getting the sunlight, but it's kind of diffused. So we'll see how this pans out. It's funny, these cards that you're getting. When I was first starting out, I used to worry about, like, what if I get like a card that people think is, oh, see, I'm sorry. I just want to have it be more centered, but sometimes it's hard to know. I wasn't really paying attention. I just want this guy to be, I don't know, it feels better that way. But when I was first starting out, I was afraid of like certain cards, and I would be, what if I get this card? And then I realized it's just like astrology. You can have some great aspects, and it still doesn't guarantee anything, because it can simply mean that a person becomes more complacent, like if you have a lot of trines or sextiles in your chart, especially trines. And yeah, so having a lot of squares can make you push forward, can give you that sense of having something to overcome. Sometimes that pushback, that resistance, it's like when you're riding a bicycle, the resistance can propel you forward a lot more than just spinning your wheels and having very low resistance. My bicycle, that's my primary mode of transportation. Something happened with the gears the other day, and it's at the lowest gear. It was at the lowest gear, so it was just going really, it had no resistance. And I was, on a lot of flat territory, and I had to go to the bike shop because I couldn't function at that gear. And I remembered when I was younger, when I first got a 10-speed, and I would always put it at that low gear and say, why would somebody want to have it at a higher gear and have more resistance? I couldn't figure that out, because I didn't realize I wasn't getting very far, but I was having an easy time pedaling. And I was thinking about that and kind of applying it to life. So the heart of the matter is the Six of Pentacles, and this is a card of give and take. Now, Pentacles can relate to material resources, so we can keep it at that level, at a very mundane level, and say, if you've been in a situation where with your partner, one of you has the money and the other one doesn't. Now, in this reading, I can't say for sure if it's you, but if it is you, you might be experiencing some problems with the other person. The other person may have a bruised ego that they have to accept money from you. Even if this is like a family member, they still may feel resentful even as they are taking your money. Or a spouse who, is not working, and it's like the dynamic may have shifted, or the dynamic may have shifted. Let's say that you're a woman and you just gave birth, so you're home with maternity leave, or just you're going to raise your child by, at home by yourself, not with childcare, and your partner is the one holding the purse strings. So it can feel, if that person takes advantage of that situation because you're vulnerable, then that might be a conflict that has arisen that you never would have dreamt has been a part of. And the same thing applies for work situations. Are you getting paid what you're worth? Now, if everybody is not getting paid what they're worth in the business, that's a different story, because maybe the business is a small one. It doesn't have the capacity to pay people a competitive rate. But if you feel like you are being singled out and other people who are in the same line of work are making more, then that might feel more problematic. In the past position, we have the Three of Swords. This is that card of a heartbreak or rejection that you may have felt. You may have felt unappreciated. And in some cases, I would say that, if you are still on the job and the other thing that I mentioned feels like it makes sense to you, then perhaps you experienced like getting passed over for a promotion. And you may feel like you deserved it for the amount of time you've been there, as well as the work that you do. You might have felt like another person is not as hardworking as you or responsible as you, and it just feels unfair. Maybe you feel like there is office politics or, favoritism, and that never feels good. But the thing is, even if that is happening, the key is not to take it personally, not to say it's about me. You could say it's about office politics, but it's not, proof that I'm unworthy. That's the important difference. The higher message is the Eight of Swords, and this can be feeling trapped by your own thoughts, your swords, because you're air sign. The other air signs are Aquarius and Libra. But as a higher message, as a spiritual message, it's more about what keeps you in a place that feels oppressive. Ultimately, it's your own thoughts, because your thoughts tell you a certain narrative about a situation that may or may not be the case. That you just spin in a certain way because of your conditioning. And that's where it gets a little bit tricky, because it's easy to believe conditioning because we're so much a part of it. It's like deeply ingrained within us. What crosses you is the Devil card, and the Devil card is connected to Capricorn as a particular sign, and it's about material lust, greed. These kinds of things can come up for a person where they are they feel like they are trapped, but really it's because of their own making, because they are too concerned with the material. They're too involved with if it's with a person, there's like a desire to have that money, not literal money, but the lifestyle, or the physical attraction takes precedence over everything else. With, job-related things, it's usually that the job pays really well, and the person, even if the person is not happy or comfortable doing what they're doing anymore, the thought of, putting in a certain amount of hours and making a lot less is not appealing to them. And you're sandwiched between two signs, Gemini, Taurus before you and Cancer after you. And both of these signs tend to want material security. So if you have inner planets in Taurus, like Mars in Taurus or Mars in Cancer, or Venus in Taurus, Mercury in Cancer, you might have more of a desire to, for money, and be willing to ignore other aspects that feel not so good. And because you're a mutable sign, Gemini, you're able to adapt to different circumstances. Doesn't mean that just because somebody can function or adapt doesn't mean it's ideal, and doesn't mean it can't take its toll. That's the important thing to realize. What's coming in are the advice, 9 of Pentacles. This is a card of financial independence. So if that scenario I gave at the beginning, if there's somebody who is like you have a partner and you have given birth, and or maybe there's some other reason, like you had a furlough, but you suspect that it's over, they just haven't made it official. The 9 of Pentacles is like, how can you become financially self-sufficient? And one of the ways, if you are, I'm not going to say forced to be at home, but we'll just call it that, if the circumstances have conspired to make you be at home because of raising a child, or because of your workplace situation, and you're kind of in this state of limbo, or maybe you're working part-time now, they've cut your hours, who knows. Maybe starting your own business is the way to go. Maybe being able to call your own shots, even if it's something very small. If you have a talent, like maybe you can make jewelry, and you have already done so for friends, and you could do it on, you could sell it on Etsy, and maybe it's just a side gig, and it always will be, who knows, or maybe it proves to be popular. But just in the act of doing that, you can find yourself feeling more energetically in tune with what you're supposed to be doing. The 9 of Pentacles is about, in this particular position, is making that a top priority for yourself, making financial independence front and center. If you have it, if you're the one in the 6 of Pentacles who is, giving out money to your partner or to family members, and maybe they are not appreciative, then maybe it's time to pull back and let them, deal with their life themselves. If they feel this sense of resentment, because sometimes people do that when they are, going through a lot of stuff. They may have their pride, but the point is that the 9 of Pentacles is like, to me, it's actually even more than that. It is a sense of knowing that you have that financial wherewithal to become, to live independently. If it gets too bad, if you're with somebody who resents you for that, and it's caused problems in your significant other relationship to in a serious way, then that you can always leave, and you have the money to support yourself. So the reason, I know that sounds like a little bit like, no, Sherlock, obviously. But with the 8 of Swords, you may feel like you're trapped, and really that's all a mental construct. It's really not true. But you're telling yourself that. Why do people tell themselves they're trapped when they're not? Because then they have an excuse for not taking action. It's kind of like when people have a lot of money and they don't want to spend it, but they can't admit that they have some like phobia or, weird issue surrounding money. So they construct all these, things that are kind of lame excuses. In fact, they have a difficulty doing that. So anyway, that's kind of like your ticket to freedom. If you don't have it now, it gives you something to work towards. And by the way, I'm not saying like, oh, having like massive amount of money, but just knowing that if you had to, you could support yourself is very important. If you feel like you're being controlled by somebody else's money, that's, kind of where I'm going with that. The outcome is the Seven of Swords. So here's another swords related to the thoughts, related to you. Seven of Swords can be going your own way. Now, whether that's literally or figuratively is a different story. This is a card of strategizing. So you might be in that stage where you realize that something in your life has to be, that you have to leave that situation at this point, that it's not something you can really negotiate. And yet, you want to do it right. So if it's for a company, you don't want to just turn in your pink slip and have them kind of react in a way that makes it seem like, like retaliatory action that some people take when they're at a lower level of consciousness, because they feel betrayed, or you're just like, you're depriving them of somebody that they're taking advantage of financially. It's like, where can I find another person I can take advantage of financially? So sometimes, to add insult to injury, not only does an employer, want to exploit their workers, but then, if they're really an a-hole, they might try to, block them from seeking out other work in the industry. So by being clever, this is about a clever exit, you can avoid all of that. You might say, I'm not going to just, if there was some confrontation at work, you might say, I'm not going to quit right now because I don't want to make it seem like I'm doing it because of them, and ease on out of there. So whether it's, if they're cutting your hours, like being glad about that, and maybe you're taking a part-time job so that you can save money to be able to pay for expenses until you look for a full-time job after you leave. I mean, who knows? If they have, so if they've cut your hours, that gives you more time to look for other work. It gives you more time to plan what exactly you're going to do, maybe to prepare to start your own business, all these things. So it's very interesting. Okay, that's what I have for you, Gemini. I hope that you enjoyed this. If you'd like a private message. If you'd like a private reading, the link is below. Take care. Bye.